All right, let's get into it. Today, we're talking about a guy with maybe the most incredible title ever, the last man who knew everything. Seriously. His name was Thomas Young, and, well, his resume is just staggering. But think about that for a second. Could one person really know everything? It sounds impossible, right? So, what did this guy, Thomas Young, actually do to earn a title like that? Let's take a look. For starters, let's talk medicine. When he was just 20 years old, Young stands up in front of the Royal Society and explains exactly how the human eye focuses. And you know what? He was totally right. A huge breakthrough. But he wasn't just a medical guy. Oh no. He jumps over to physics and figures out that light travels in waves and that our eyes see color using 3 different receptors. I mean, this is the very foundation of how we understand light and vision today. And just when you think you've got him pegged, he takes a sharp turn into linguistics. He makes one of the key breakthroughs in deciphering the Rosetta Stone, which, just unlocked the entire language of the ancient Egyptians. So we've got medicine, physics, and Egyptology. The guy was all over the map. So here's the thing. Young's story is so incredible that it's actually the perfect training ground for a really important skill, learning how to read like a detective. How to separate what a text actually says from what we just think it says. So, let's do this. We're going to put on our detective hats and dig into a few statements about Thomas Young and see if they actually hold up to the evidence. First up, we've got something I call the assumption trap. This is a classic mistake. It's what happens when we see 2 things being compared and our brain immediately jumps to the conclusion that one is being ranked as better than the other. So let's investigate this claim. Young's talent as a doctor surpassed his other skills. Now, on the surface, that sounds pretty believable. He was a doctor, after all. But did his medical talent really surpass everything else? What do you think? True, false, or maybe the information just isn't there? Let's check the actual evidence. Okay, look really closely at the words here. The claim uses surpassed, but the source text only says his medical skills did not equal his skills as a scholar. See the difference? It's subtle, but it's everything. And that, right there, is the trap. Did not equal just means they were different. It doesn't say if one was better or worse. Saying one surpassed the other is a total assumption that the text never actually makes. So the right answer here is not given. All right, on to our next case file. This one's the detail trap. It's all about watching out for tiny, powerful words like all, only, or never, that can completely flip the meaning of a sentence. All Young's articles were published in Encyclopedia Britannica. Again, this sounds pretty plausible. We know he wrote for them. But that little word, all, that should set off alarm bells for any good detective. So the evidence tells us he contributed 63 articles to the Encyclopedia. That's a lot. But does it ever say that's the only place he ever got published? Nope. It just says he was a contributor. So you see the trick? The statement feels kinda true because he did write for Britannica. But that one absolute word, all, makes the whole thing false. The text just doesn't support that big of a claim. Okay, one last case file, and this one is less of a trap and more of a skill you need to master. I call it the paraphrase puzzle. It's all about spotting when an idea is being talked about using totally different words. Let's check this one out. Young's advice was sought by people responsible for local and national issues. Now, if you go looking for the exact phrase local and national issues in the text, you're not going to find it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. The evidence says his opinions were sought on civic and national matters. And then it gives us a perfect example, the introduction of gaslighting in London. Well, what is that? That's a textbook local or civic issue. And that's the skill right there. A sharp reader knows that civic matters is just another way of saying local issues. The meaning is exactly the same, even if the words are different. So this statement is true. You've got to read for meaning, not just play keyword bingo. So after we've done all our detective work, what do we actually know? When we peel back all the assumptions and the little traps, we can start to build a portrait of Thomas Young that we can actually trust. For instance, here's a hard fact we can pull out. We know he contributed 63 articles in total to the encyclopedia, but the text gets even more specific. It tells us that exactly 46 of those were biographical entries. That's not an assumption, it's a cold, hard fact we found by reading carefully. So what's the takeaway? Here's your detective toolkit. Rule 1, stick to the evidence, period.
Rule 2, watch out for those absolute words like all. Rule 3, don't let your brain turn a simple comparison into a ranking. 4, look for the meaning and the paraphrases, not just the exact words. And maybe most important, if it's not in the text, the answer is not given. Don't you dare guess.
Look, this is way more than just a history lesson about some brilliant guy. This is a skill. It's a way of thinking you can use on everything you read, whether it's the news, a book, or an email from your boss. So I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know how to read like a detective, what are you going to go discover?